Today, we're going to talk about the 2018 movie called The Lover in the Attic, a true story. This movie is all about the complicated marriage of Dolly Oesterreich and her husband, Fred. This is not a typical love story because Fred wanted a beautiful wife to show off to everyone, while Dolly was more interested in having financial security. Surprisingly, Dolly begins a romantic relationship with a repairman named Otto. She convinces Otto to live secretly in their attic so they can be together without anyone knowing. Otto listens to Dolly and Fred talking from the attic and finds comfort in writing. Even though Otto knows Dolly doesn't really love him, he still dreams about a future together with her. The story takes place during the Great Depression, which is a challenging time for many people. Dolly and Otto have to be even more careful to hide their real intentions from others, and this leads to conflicts between them. The movie starts with Otto in a police cell, and an older man asks him to share his story for the press. Otto begins to tell the story of Dolly and Fred. Dolly and Fred got married, but their marriage faced problems because they couldn't have children. Dolly tried to get Fred's attention, but he ignored her. One day, Dolly met Otto, who was a repairman and wanted to be a writer. They met at a tailor shop where Otto was fixing a sewing machine. At home, Fred and his friends were drinking and gambling, while Dolly was making a cherry pie for them. Fred's behavior made Dolly uncomfortable, and she started thinking about how unhappy she was in her marriage. Even though Dolly married Fred for a better life, she still wanted more from her life. The next morning, Dolly made breakfast and asked Fred if they could go somewhere nice together. But Fred got angry and hurt Dolly by choking her when she made this request. After that, Dolly tried to distract Fred by talking about fixing her sewing machine and making clothes for their future child. Meanwhile, Otto came to Dolly's house and she seduced him while wearing a nightgown. They started a secret romance, and Dolly convinced Otto to be her hidden lover. They continued to meet secretly, and Dolly used Otto for her own pleasure. Otto thought about suggesting a divorce, but Dolly refused because she didn't want to be poor like her mother, and she had big dreams. Fred still treated Dolly badly, especially when he came home drunk. Otto finds himself in a tough situation with another woman, but he can't stop thinking about Dolly. Meanwhile, Dolly tells her neighbor, Susan, a made-up story to hide Otto's visits. She convinces Otto to live secretly in the attic, promising to take good care of him and provide a good life. In the attic, Otto feels sad when he hears Dolly and Fred being close to each other. But they keep seeing each other secretly, and Otto begins writing stories while pretending to be Fred. Dolly tells Otto she will help get his stories published, and they even celebrate his 21st birthday together. During a party, Otto realizes he's not comfortable around people and becomes scared. Even though Dolly takes care of him, she refuses when he asks if they can get married openly. Later, Fred and Dolly have a fight. Fred says he'll take her to a fancy club, which makes her happy. While she's getting ready for the club, Otto gets jealous, and Fred's involvement makes things more complicated. As Dolly and Fred leave the house for the club, Otto watches from the window. He's deeply interested in Dolly and believes she might be cheating with Fred. At the party, Dolly wants to show off, and Fred agrees to dance with her, but he feels awkward. When Dolly dances with other men, Fred gets embarrassed and returns to his seat. Dolly enjoys dancing with other guys, making Fred angry and jealous. Dolly even flirts with Roy, their family insurance guy. Suddenly, Fred grabs Dolly and takes her home with him. Upon their return, Otto is in the living room and gets surprised when he sees Dolly and Fred coming in. Fred notices Otto out of the corner of his eye and rushes to their bedroom to grab his gun. However, Otto manages to slip away through the back door. Otto wonders if Dolly wanted Fred to see him, maybe to show something to Fred. After spending a night with a homeless man, Otto returned home the next day, and Dolly, out of concern, slapped him. However, they later shared a close moment. While in the bathtub, Dolly entrusted Otto with a handgun for safekeeping. Before long, Dolly had a conversation with Roy, pretending that Fred was unwell. Roy mentioned that there was a life insurance policy in place. Later, during a dinner outing, a heated argument erupted between Dolly and Fred, causing a scene that drew the attention of everyone around. Fred's anger escalated, and Dolly decided to leave. Fred followed her home, leading to a heated and physical altercation. In a critical moment, Otto intervened, brandishing a gun at Fred, finally revealing the affair. Suddenly, Fred attacked Otto, resulting in a fierce struggle. Unfortunately, in the midst of the struggle, Otto accidentally discharged the firearm, striking Fred in the head. Thinking fast, Otto gathered Fred's belongings and instructed Dolly to follow his lead. He pretended to slap her, concealed her in a closet, and made his escape. Later, When the police arrived, Dolly put on an act, pretending they had been victims of a robbery and that her husband had tried to protect her. However, Detective Klein harbored suspicions, especially because the supposed robber had left Fred's money untouched. Otto eventually returned, and Dolly promised to use the insurance money to start a new life together in Los Angeles. Dolly visited the police station to assist with a sketch of the alleged robber. Herman bombarded her with questions, while Victor maintained his trust in her completely. Ultimately, Dolly was allowed to return home. Back at her house, Roy informed her that she was now wealthy and free. As they flirted and danced, Otto secretly listened from the attic. Eventually, Roy and Dolly became intimate, all while Otto watched in silence. Later, Dolly handed a gun to Roy. Dolly and Otto embarked on a journey to Los Angeles together, although Otto still held on to the hope that they might one day marry, despite Dolly's reservations. Dolly believed that Otto's writing talent would lead to success with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. Nevertheless, their relationship became strained as Otto grew jealous of Dolly's interactions with a lawyer during a party she hosted for Hollywood screenwriters. Feeling used by Dolly, Roy made the decision to hand the gun over to Detective Klein, thus implicating her in Fred's demise. Overwhelmed with hurt and frustration, Otto turned to alcohol and caused a scene at the party. Their relationship deteriorated further, leading Otto to return the watch Dolly had given him, symbolizing the end of their affair. One day, out of nowhere, the phone rings, and it's Detective Klein on the line. He wants to meet with Dolly to talk about something. Otto strongly disagrees and believes they should move far away to avoid any trouble. But Dolly enjoys her life in sunny LA and doesn't want to leave. This leads to a big argument between Otto and Dolly because Otto doesn't have the same financial security as Dolly does. Dolly insists on keeping Otto a secret because she doesn't want anyone to know about their unusual arrangement. Soon enough, the detective arrives at their doorstep, but surprisingly, it's Herman, the lawyer, who welcomes him inside instead of Dolly. Detective Klein starts asking Dolly all sorts of questions, especially about a man named Roy and the weapon used in the murder. But Dolly, being clever and quick on her feet, manages to keep her secrets hidden. With Herman's help, Detective Klein leaves feeling frustrated, unable to get the answers he was looking for. Afterward, Otto secretly listens to Dolly and Herman talking. Dolly even gives Otto a watch as a present, but she doesn't realize it has Fred's initials on the back. Herman doesn't pay attention to the watch's initials, and Otto goes back to his hiding place, feeling upset and conflicted. Not long after, during a date with Dolly, Herman gets down on one knee and asks Dolly to marry him, to which she happily says yes. Later, as the two engaged lovebirds relax at home, Otto suddenly appears, startling them with a knife in his hand. He demands that Dolly tell the truth about their relationship. Dolly decides to come clean and reveals that Otto has been living as a lodger upstairs. This revelation shocks everyone, and Otto hits Dolly in his anger. Then, Otto finally admits to everything and tells Herman that he's been Dolly's secret romantic companion all this time. When Otto confesses to being Dolly's servant, Herman takes Dolly's engagement ring and contacts the police to apprehend both her and Otto. Otto becomes somewhat famous due to the sensational story, earning him the nickname Batman because of his unexpected actions. Even though Herman doesn't fully believe Dolly's tricks, he intervenes to prevent her from going to jail. They both end up in court for accidental killing. During the trial, they portray Otto as the one in the wrong, making it seem like Dolly just made a terrible mistake. While people may feel sympathy for Otto, the verdict ultimately declares him guilty, and the police take him away, leaving Dolly in tears. Time passes, and Otto gets released because of the legal time limits. He follows his passion for writing and even manages to get some of his stories published. Meanwhile, Dolly moves on with her life, entering into different relationships before eventually getting married. Sadly, she passes away in 1961, leaving behind a life filled with secrets and a tumultuous past.